Hey everyone. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the method for our analysis of all the ITSM tools that exhibited at Service Management World 2024 and our comparison to Cherwell. Um, and specifically uh, the kind of the facets, what we call the dimensions, along which we're going to be scoring uh, all of these different tools, how we're going to be scoring them, how we're going to come up with the score. Um, and we'll also talk a little bit about the 13 different vendors that we're evaluating. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that this is part of a series. Link down below to the playlist with all these videos. Once everything is published, this will probably be the second of maybe 14 or 15, maybe 16 even videos total. Most of which are going to be one video per vendor. Again, comparing them to the Cherwell experience. Uh, why we're doing this is because Synapse Software builds a tool called CORTEX that helps folks with their transition from Cherwell to any platform that they want to go to. Basically, gives them a way to see their Cherwell data in a familiar format. It basically looks just like the BizApp form in Cherwell, which frees you up to pick your future platform based on your current and future needs as opposed to looking in the past and trying to shoehorn your old data into the new system. We feel like that's just a recipe for headache, and we want to free you up from having to deal with that, so you can just focus on setting yourself up for success for the future. So with that, let's get into some of the details of how this whole thing works. So I'm not gonna switch to demo screen in this video. I'm just gonna talk about the different things that we're looking at. So actually, let's first talk about the 13 different ITSM platforms that we're looking at. And these are specifically the vendors that we're exhibiting at Service Management World 2024. Uh, this notably excludes vendors like Avanti, ServiceNow, and BMC, among others. There are a few others as well. Um, we think that's okay because by the time you're watching this video, you probably have a pretty good idea of why you either are or aren't considering those three vendors in your search. And this, we wanted to kind of shine a spotlight on some of the less well-known players. Most of the people on this list either are new to the scene in general or new to the enterprise service management scene. A lot of these tools, a few of these tools actually, I've used in a much smaller scenario, and it wasn't until the last 5 years or so that they started having a more enterprise level offering. So it's cool to see these companies kind of growing up, maturing, and being a contender in the enterprise space. The vendors that we're specifically looking at are Halo ITSM, and with that also Halo PSA and Halo CRM. Um, I forgot to mention this in the video that well, I the next video in this series is all about Halo, but I've already recorded that, and I forgot to mention that those three offerings are more or less the same, just targeted at slightly different customers. But it's all the same foundation. It's all the same software under the hood. It's just a different kind of out of the box package that you get. Uh, we're also looking at Jira Service Management. Even though they're a much larger company, Atlassian is huge. Probably mm, they were one of the largest companies exhibiting, for sure. Um, they were still one of the exhibitors at Service Management World, and their service management offering is actually relatively new. I think it came out 6 or 7 years ago, or at least started gaining traction, significant traction 6 or 7 years ago. Um, but obviously, Atlassian as a company has been around much, much longer. Fresh Service is the next one. They used to be called Fresh Desk, uh, and they also have a few other tools, I think. But they've rebranded as Fresh Service to go after the enterprise market fairly recently. HCL Software is the software arm of the giant services company called HCL. Um, HCL actually did some work with Cherwell back in the late 20 teens, I believe. Um, but this is specifically the software arm, and they have a service management offering as well. Uh, Invigate is one that I heard in conversations a few times leading up to the conference, and I got to visit with them. It's an awesome product. I've already recorded that video as well. That's um, let's see, that's I guess that's the fifth in the list. So 5 videos from now is all about Invigate, but I've already recorded that, so I know how that turns out. It's pretty cool. It's definitely worth a look. Manage Engine is the enterprise service management product from Zoho. So Zoho is well known, at least to me, for having lots of different, like I would say, almost ERP tools, but not as one giant suite. They're kind of individual products that all work fantastically well and have a generous free tier. So they're great for small business, but they can scale all the way up to um, enterprise. And Manage Engine is specifically their enterprise level ITSM or ESM platform. Symphony AI, another explicitly ITSM uh, offering. They might have asset management as well, but they're specifically, the service management side of things. SolarWinds, obviously huge company. They also have a an ITSM product. I think I was hearing the backstory. They might actually have two at this point. They had an older one, and they just recently acquired a newer one. And I believe they were demoing the newer one at the conference. Um, GLPI um, from a company called TechLib. They're a French company. GLPI is an acronym for something in French that roughly translates to like free open source IT platform, something along those lines. Um, Again, they're an open source offering. They were pretty cool to check out. One that I never heard of before. Easy Vista. Easy Vista is a company that a lot of former Cherwell employees have gone to and are really enjoying it over there. They obviously, they think the offering is pretty cool. I haven't yet recorded the video for that one or done a whole lot of research into it, but I am excited because if a lot of people from Cherwell went over to it, then there must be some reason, and I want to further understand what that reason is. Um, the next one that we're evaluating is Case. That's Kace. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. That's from a company called Quest Software. I think they're actually a part of Dell, EMC, Broadcom, whoever owns that company at this point. Um, that was kind of an interesting conversation I had with them. They sell an appliance, um, and now it's a virtual appliance. So it's basically like designed as an on-premise system. And while they do have ITSM, they also have asset management and a bunch of other IT operations, cybersecurity appliances that you can download and run uh, in your own cloud, be it AWS, Azure, or actually a physical data center that you host. So I'm excited to check that one out. I haven't done a whole lot of digging into that because that one was relatively new to me. And then the last two are Topdesk and Zurint. Um, Topdesk is one that I never heard of, and so I had a chance to talk with them. And I'm actually in the process of getting access to a trial version of Topdesk. I'm excited to check that out. I've heard other people looking at it and thinking that it looked pretty cool. So I'm curious to get into that and do a bit of digging there. Zurint used to be called For Me. It was the number four and then ME. Um, Rebranded Zurint Xurrent. And again, that one was relatively new to me. I'm excited to check that one out. Okay, so those are the 13 different vendors that we're going to be checking out. What are the dimensions that we're going to be evaluating them on? We have, let's see, I guess technically seven dimensions that we're scoring these on. And then I have a eighth category that's just you might be interested if. So the you might be interested if is basically the executive summary. If you only want to read one little snippet of text about each one of these vendors and each one of these products, that kind of, at least to me, kind of showcases what its strengths are or uh, what it kind of speaks to. um, that's what you would read. Obviously, for all of these scores, we do have at least a paragraph or two written up about how each of these products compares to Cherwell um, along each of these dimensions. And the seven dimensions are the hosting model. So, can you run it on premises or is it cloud only? So far, most have had a self-hosted model, even if it's kind of hidden in the background. Most of these companies promote their vendor-hosted setup. The next dimension is forms, and in forms, I'm also including what in Cherwell we know as business objects. Customizing business objects, adding custom fields, that sort of thing, because most of these systems don't give you quite that level of control over the individual like database tables, right? Cherwell, you created a business object, it created a physical database table. Most of these other systems don't work that way. They have a slightly different paradigm. Usually, basically, like there's an incident, the incident table in Cherwell, and then that gets some extension in one form or another. In most of these systems, we don't actually see how they do it. It's just kind of magic behind the scenes. Um, but so that forms dimension includes both the ability to customize uh, instance, add fields, use custom fields, and also customize the form to show those fields, enter data into those fields, that sort of thing. Um, and I should mention all of these dimensions are scored from 0 to 10. 0 meaning it doesn't do the thing at all, and 10 would be it does the thing exactly the same way that Cherwell does, or possibly even better. I'm not giving anything an 11 or anything like that. I thought about that, but 10 means they do the thing exactly the way Cherwell does at the very least, possibly better as well. Now, if they do something far better than Cherwell does, but in a very different way than Cherwell does it, they're not going to get a 10. They're probably going to get a 5. They're certainly not going to get any lower than a 5 because I don't think that would be fair to say, oh, this tool gets a 3, even though their particular offering is fantastic and probably makes sense to a fair number of us, simply because it doesn't work the same way as Cherwell, right? There were issues with Cherwell. Cherwell wasn't perfect, and Cherwell definitely was confusing to some people in some areas. I've seen comments on Reddit, even comments on our videos, of people saying Cherwell is weird. Cherwell didn't really make sense to me. This is not how I think. And that's totally fair, which is why I'm doing this comparison between these platforms and Cherwell. So a low score doesn't mean that the platform is bad, just means it's not similar to Cherwell in that particular dimension. And that also means we can't really aggregate all of the dimensions together and say that a platform that gets what is it, a 70, for instance, would be the top score. That doesn't mean they're better than a platform that gets a 35, which is like average, right? Um, the 35 platform might actually be right for you because you specifically don't want something that works exactly like Cherwell along specific dimensions. That's why we're providing this commentary. So anyway, the dimensions. I think I mentioned the first two, the hosting model and the forms, and specifically ability to customize fields and the layout. Uh, and the next one is automations, and that's specifically the ability to automate things. So I split what would be one steps into two dimensions. One is automation. Can I run some sort of automation? Can I run some sort of workflow? And authoring, meaning how easy is it to build these custom automations? Is there a visual designer? Those sorts of things. And then we have dashboards. So far, every ITSM tool has had some degree of dashboard functionality, which is kind of to be expected. Um, but not all of them do it exactly the same way that Cherwell does it. So obviously that score indicates how similarly they handle dashboarding to the way Cherwell does it. In order to get a 10 in that category, they would have to have dashboards, have a way to edit dashboards, have a way to create widgets based on completely custom metrics, like anything in the system, be able to pick that, pick an aggregation, that sort of thing, even on custom fields. And I mean, that might be it. There are certainly some nitty gritty things that, Cherwell does that uh, who knows, maybe some of these products will also do. But I think those three aspects are probably the main things that, made Cherwell dashboards um, what they are. I'm not going to get into things like, being able to pixel perfectly place things on the dashboard. I think that's maybe lower priority. Um, yeah, adaptive layouts, maybe even further down the list of priorities. Um, and then we have email processing, which is something that I've heard from a lot of you is something you really liked about Cherwell. So far, I haven't found any tool that really does email processing quite the same way that Cherwell does it. Um, it seems like that's an area that honestly platforms like to kind of skimp on, which is a bummer. Um, it's certainly putting more fuel on the fire of avoiding email as a way to, as a channel, as a support channel, which is a real bummer because email is still used for business, all day, every day. Um, and in some cases, lots of people don't want to go to the portal and try to find things. But that's a whole separate conversation about portal design and how you provide service to your users. There was actually a really good talk session on portal design by Phyllis Drucker at Service Management World. If you weren't in that talk, you absolutely should get the notes from it because it was fantastic. It talked about more than just what we typically think of portal. It talked about the entire customer facing support channel setup, which is absolutely the way to approach it. Approach it holistically, not just in terms of let's build a website. I'm getting way down into the weeds, but anyway, email processing. That's our sixth dimension, and then finally documentation. Documentation was kind of an interesting dimension to pick because Cherwell's documentation was not necessarily um, perfect. Uh, it was there, and in a lot of ways, it was really well put together for the type of platform that Cherwell was. And in addition to just the system documentation, that came out of the engineering group, there was also a whole training arm of the company. Um, and so that's included as well. Lots of these companies do have training, education, even some of them even have educational materials outside of just their core product, even into like how ITSM works, how ITIL works, which is pretty cool, right? That might be, primarily for their content marketing game, but at the same time, it is resources that are made available and just provide more information about their product as a whole. Um, so I actually do have a couple uh, systems so far that have gotten tens in documentation because they absolutely do documentation really well, probably better than Cherwell did it. which is refreshing to see because documentation, in my experience, documentation has always tended to take a back seat, and to the consternation and frustration of lots of users. So it's really awesome to see that a strong documentation game from some of these vendors. Um, Now, some uh, dimensions that we didn't include are things like portal. And getting back to the previous conversation, the reason we didn't include portal is because Cherwell had a very specific way of doing portal. Not everybody used Cherwell's portal the way that it was designed out of the box. Not everybody used Cherwell's portal the same way. So it was basically really hard to come up with a cohesive description of what would the portal dimension even mean. How could we even come up with a rubric where zero is maybe no portal functionality. Sorry for my light going out. It's been acting up all week. Um, Zero being no portal functionality whatsoever, which would just be weird, and 10 being I don't know what is the most amazing portal in the world. Being able to link out to other sites, being able to show a service catalog. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to put our finger on exactly what that would be. The other aspect of that specifically being the service catalog. Every system has their own way of doing a service catalog, which made it really difficult to try to compare apples to apples. So we didn't even try. We're not even talking about that. Um, all of these systems are great uh, in their own way, especially on the things that they do very differently from everybody else. That might be something that you kind of have to look at and see if it makes sense to you from that perspective. But that's not really something that we can compare to Cherwell very well. Um, and that's another thing to note. This is not a comparison of who is the best ITSM platform. That's not what this is supposed to be. Every single one of these platforms is really strong in some respect. That's why they were all exhibiting. That's why they're all, doing well enough to be able to afford to exhibit at Service Management World. Um, and that's really why I wanted to highlight each of these different vendors because they all shine in their own way, and all of your organizations are different and unique in your own way. And there's probably a match between one of these ITSM vendors, potentially multiple ITSM vendors, and the way your organization works. And that's not going to be the same for you as it is for another organization. Um, so I kind of wanted to cut through all of the noise and kind of show you, from the Cherwell specific perspective, right? You all chose Cherwell for a specific reason, for something that Cherwell gave you that another ITSM vendor didn't. Maybe it was price, maybe it was something technological, maybe it was something cultural. Um, I'm not getting into price. That's a whole other can of worms. But the cultural and the functional technological pieces are definitely things that are coming through in at least the videos and also the report as well. Though the report is definitely skewed more toward the technical and the functional, uh, but really geared toward highlighting if there is a specific angle that you really value Cherwell on, look at that column in the report. So if the ability to customize forms is absolutely critical to your ability to run your service desk, start with that column and look at the different tools that uh, provide the appropriate level of customization that you're looking for. And then look at some of the other columns from there. But I'd say that's the way to use this report. So this video is long enough as is. Um, Thank you for sticking it to the end if you've made it all the way to the end. If you want to get access to that report, link down in the description below. When it comes out, if it's already out, you'll just automatically get an email to the report. but at time of recording, the report is not yet out. So you'll just go on a list and I'll send out the report to you when it's ready. And if you're not following the channel already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and go watch some of the other videos about all the different vendors. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.